All right, how's everybody doing? Welcome back to You Don't Know Ball, episode 54. We're cheesing to have you back after, again, like I told her right when he came in today. I'm like, just another, not as crazy as last week, but we're just getting crazy weeks of football. The narratives are definitely not what we expected.
No, it's kind of crazy because I don't want to say it's crazy because I feel like this happens every year. I feel like everyone overreacts the first couple weeks of football, but you got to think about it. Like that's the only information you're getting like from the new year besides preseason, which is not very indicative of how the season's actually going to go.
Well, and I'm not gonna lie to you, bro. I was thinking about this the other day, and I'm telling you, I don't think I've ever said this before. I'll judge myself on it, but I've never said it out loud. I'm at the point where I'm done. You're not gonna hear a hot take from me ever again for the first 2 weeks of football.
Yeah,
the first 2 weeks.
No, that's
it's
the best time
zone.
to do them, though,
bro. It's a trap zone because I'm looking back at myself and I'm like, oh my goodness. I was right about things that I was convinced I was wrong about. I went back on things, should have gone back on, and some things, it's a mess, bro. You got to just let the first 2 weeks just do itself, because then all your hot takes you had in the offseason, you cheat yourself out of.
Yep.
Can't do it anymore.
Yeah, no, that's how I feel like every year of football. I feel like every year I just don't know what I'm talking about after I listen back to, and then I guess the biggest reminder is just stay calm. And I think that's kind of the theme of kind of the first topic we're going to talk about today. But also, there's also a version of maybe don't stay calm. So
this is going to be crazy.
The first topic we have today is the future of Justin Fields. Okay. So there's a long season left. There's still a lot of games to be played. But right now, the Bears currently possess the number 1 and number 2 overall pick in the 2023 draft. Okay. Now, going into this year, I don't think a single Bears fan would have told you. Maybe there's a couple out there, but I don't think there's a single Bears fan that would have told you, oh, yeah, we'll have the number 1 pick. That might be our pick. Like, everyone assumed if we had the number 1 pick, it'd be Carolina. Now, currently, that's how it stands. But at the end of the day, I think Bears fans genuinely felt very optimistic going into this year. So there's 2 scenarios on the table right now. Let's say the Bears suck and Justin Fields does not play well. Like, we just saw 2 great weeks from Denver and Washington. The scenario 1 is Justin Fields is traded for whatever you can get for him, and you take Caleb Williams with the number 1. You take Caleb Williams with the number 1 overall pick. The other scenario is Justin Fields balls out, and we trade the number 1 overall pick for more draft picks. And then you hopefully have a pick within the top 5 where you can grab Marvin Harrison Jr. And then wherever that other pick lands, you're getting a top first-round talent. So, Dobbs, let me ask you this. Right now, what do you think is a more likely scenario? Justin Fields is the starting quarterback for the Bears in 2024, or Caleb Williams is the new quarterback in Chicago?
It's so tough, bro. And honestly, I hate doing this. I hate being like split on something.
Yeah.
But I truly am in the sense of, and here's my thing. Look, I can completely see, like we said before, Justin, yeah, he's playing good and he's showing us really good weeks on tape. But I can see him having 1 or 2 really bad stinkers again throughout the rest of the year.
Yeah.
And then it kind of hits the point where, again, like you said, if you have even the smidgenest of doubt, you got to go with Caleb. Caleb is that guy. And then, but on the other hand, I can totally see them kind of just really turning the corner like we thought they were going to at the beginning, having a historically bad start to the year and kind of just like weaning out 7, 8 wins throughout the rest of the year. And everyone's like, oh yeah, like Justin keeps playing like this. And then it would be where you're taking too much of a risk, not letting him keep developing under the team with the chemistry of the team. And then I can see, bro, it truly is a scenario where I can see both, because also then if he's playing like that and you add Marvin to the mix for like certain, I mean, so it is I guess it's a great problem to have, I guess. Like, that's how I'm looking at it, where Bears fans are stressing too much. The truth of the matter is, bro, there's not really a wrong way to go about it. Like,
no, it's a great problem to have, but also, like, if you make the wrong decision, it can be catastrophic. Like, it can be bad. Like, if you choose to roll with Justin and he ends up not being that guy, what are the chances you're going to have a pick? Like, have the Bears could the Bears have ever had a player like Caleb Williams? Like, they have never been in position to like take a guy like that. So my thing is just like, that's why I'm so like, maybe you just do it. because you've never had this opportunity. You have this guy who is consensus number one. Consensus number one. So let me lay out kind of what I have processed while thinking about this. So if you trade Justin Fields, okay, you're going to get some type of draft capital back, but then you have to use the number one pick on a quarterback. You don't really get to upgrade your roster anywhere else besides that other pick that you will probably have in the top 10 if you're trading Justin Fields, okay? So if you do take Williams, you can then take Marvin Harrison Jr. or Olu or Joe Alt to kind of solidify that offense. And besides center, you're good. Like your offense is good. But then if Fields balls out, you can trade the number one overall pick for a haul, and possibly players. Like we saw that's what they did with DJ Moore, and it has worked. So if you trade for already proven players plus draft picks, I mean, think the Bears already have an extra second in 2025. If you get a first in 25 and 26, like you have two firsts, you're going to have two firsts all the way from 24 to 26.
Well, that's why it's like, so let's look at it from an honest perspective.
Okay.
What Bears fans should want to happen.
Just
talk about what you guys, in my opinion, should want.
Let me say this before you go. It's the best case scenario for Justin Fields, for all Bears fans, for Justin Fields to ball out. It's the best case scenario.
Oh, it's not even close because, like, to your point, if that happens, well, then you kind of just get to a point where, and if he actually stays consistent, it's like an embarrassment for draft capital of riches, like an embarrassment of riches in draft capital in the best way. I mean, there is no bad way to say that. That's the best case scenario for sure. And yeah, so I think Bears fans should be leaning towards Justin to keep doing this because, and then let's go on the other hand. If you guys, where Justin plays bad, whatever, look, just because you get the generational QB, we know that does not mean you're going to go win. It does not guarantee that the roster is going to turn around. And then back to the other hand of we keep switching hands here. We're like juggling. Back to the best case scenario, you can build so much, and you don't have to. And yes, you would have to pay Justin sooner than later. And yes. But you have so much room to build the rest of the team with that capital, where you can kind of just pick and choose what you want to do. Like you can literally look at a team that's bad, their best players, and kind of be like, yeah, I'm eyeing him. How's that first rounder sound if I can get him? You know what I'm saying? Or a couple. You get my point. For Justin to ball out, it's far and away the best case scenario. It's not even close.
Yeah, so I just want to look at the grand scheme of things. I want to look at the Bears teams now over the last 3 years, the teams that Justin Fields has been a part of, okay? Whether it's offense or defense. So in 2021, the Bears are 24th in yards, 27th in points scored, 30th in passing, 14th in rushing, and 31st in turnovers, okay? They were slightly better last year in some categories. They were 28th in yards, 23rd in points scored, 32nd in passing, which is just atrocious, obviously, if you're looking at the quarterback position. But you also have to look at who's he throwing to. The line wasn't always healthy at the beginning of the year, or they weren't that good at the beginning of the year, but they were first in rushing. And I think that has a lot to do with Justin Fields' legs. 27th in turnovers, okay? The issue through these last 3 years of offense has been turnovers. They've been horrible with turnovers. Okay, but this is this year, okay? Now, they have ranked higher in mostly everything by far outside of rushing. 13th in total yards, 11th in points scored. Now, if I were to tell you that, a lot of people would not think that the Bears are like that high in those lists. So 11th in points scored, 15th in passing, 8th in rushing, and 25th in turnovers, okay? So that's the offense. Like, they have gotten better this year. Even though it's only through 5 games, like, they have been better than what they were the last 2 years. Especially passing. Passing and total points scored. So let's move into their defense.
No, let's say the defense, if anything, that's the regression point, I'm sure.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like...
So this is the thing. They were 22nd in total yards in 21, 28th in takeaways, 11th in points allowed. Last year, they're 29th in total yards allowed, 14th in takeaways, and 32nd in points allowed. So they were the most scored on team in 2022. This year, they are 30th in total yards allowed, 26th in takeaways, 30th in points allowed. Justin Fields' record as a starter is horrible, but you have to ask, how many games would they have won if their defense wasn't atrocious? And mind you, 21 was when Nagy was still here. So they have been worse the 2 years that they've had a defensive-minded head coach as their guy. And that, to me, is why he has to go.
I was going to say, we're certainly at a point where, regardless, I don't really know. That's what the most, actually, now that you bring it up, and it kind of slipped my mind for a little bit.
Yeah.
But that's probably the most awkward thing about the entire situation is if we go back to this hand here of the Justin having the great rest of the year, is it puts the ownership group in a tough spot where it's like, okay, do we switch up the situation again? Even though we have to, because the defense is terrible. That's what he's here for. But then you got to kind of restart a few things over again, get the coach QB relationship again. And I'm not, and obviously, like we're saying, the way things are right now, I have no clue. I have no clue what I'm leaning towards being what scenario is going to happen. So I do think regardless, though, we do see Eberflus out some way, somehow. However it's going to happen, it has to happen.
Yeah. So
at this point, I
agree. I think you have to get like an offensive minded guy and then just find like a stud DC. Because it's like the defense isn't good. It's not good.
Terrible.
And here's the thing, like if you're a defensive minded head coach, we've had this discussion multiple times, you have to elevate your team somehow. You have to. Like, what is the point? I mean, it's an offensive league. The rules benefit offense. Why are you here if you're not elevating your team?
Well, and I also just want to bring up, even just from last week's example,
he was much better though this week.
Well, yes, but here's my thing. Big red flag in my opinion, because I've seen this. I'm telling you from witnessing a bunch of bad defenses in my life from the Saints. Not recently, but I've witnessed a lot of them in the past. It's like it's easy to come out and play good for a couple quarters, and then it's just like when the effort just gets, it's like that was enough. Like and that was, you clearly saw that Commanders game was like they definitely kind of the effort was not the same in the second half because the Commanders came out ready to gunsling and they were getting anything they wanted in the second half.
Yeah,
I mean it got to a point where. I'm sure you guys were getting a little nervous. Like, okay, are we really going to do this 2 weeks in a row?
Yeah, I was.
So it's like, that's where my thing comes in. It's like, if you're going to be a defensive coach, you can't have those weeks. And this is every week. If it was every once in a while, it wouldn't be a big deal. But truthfully, the Bears are the type, and again, somehow almost put up like 400 yards against you guys. Like, yes, they had 20 points. Yeah, they didn't have a good offensive week. But the reality of the situation is you can move the ball on the Bears defense right now. Pretty much however you want. I mean, you can kind of just do whatever you want on them. It's just like you said now, when the offense comes together, they actually can do things too. It's just the offense was at a low point. And with the defense at a low point, like we said, they look like an 0-17 team.
It looked bad.
When the offense wants to do this, they can win games. But when you're a defensive coach, back to the point, it's a joke. Yeah,
so moving into kind of my final points here is like, I think the main thing I really want to address is if the Bears are going to stick with Justin Fields going into the 2024 year, if you just look at his stats from 2022 into 5 games this year, because I just threw out 21, because 21 is just, he's in a horrible offense with a coach that's trying to save his job. And it's just, I don't think that's a fair evaluation. I think he was thrown to the fire with really nothing to work with. So looking back in 22, he was 16th in touchdown passes, 26th in pass yards, 17th in average per completion. So he was 29th in completions and 27 in attempts. So that's not bad. That means he was airing the ball out a decent amount. 32nd in completion percentage, 32nd in yards per game. And he was the first for the most sacked quarterback. He was PFF's 56th graded passer. Obviously, not everyone plays 16 games, so it's a little janky there, but just looking at his 2023 through 5 games, he's tied second for most touchdown passes, 13th in pass yards, 8th in average per completion yards. But he's also 18th in attempts. So that's pretty good in my opinion. That means they're airing the ball. They're not just dumping it off like they were the first 3 weeks. And I think that's so important. The issue that we're kind of seeing though is he's 27th in completion. So he hasn't really upped his completion percentage. But that would really be your area of concern. 13th in yards per game, 3rd for most sacked, and he's PFF's 26th graded passer. So obviously there's huge strides. I mean, like, in my opinion, I would like to see him use his legs a little bit more because that's what made him so deadly. And if he's developing as this passer and you're able to get him in this rhythm of 2nd in touchdown passes and 13th in pass yards, imagine if you get his legs going at 70% of what you were doing last year. I don't know how you stop that offense.
No, and I think too, what I wanted to say is, now that you said it, a little side note, but I think, and this is just obvious stuff, but what Justin needs to start doing more is, and it was a prime example this week where Jalen was doing it a ton, where it's like, you know what? Things are starting to open up. you know what? I'm not going to hesitate. Sometimes that's the problem. What Justin is just he hesitates too much in the pocket. It's
Yeah.
like, I'm waiting, because you want to get the downfield strike, right? Every good QB, you want to hit the downfield strike. You want to get the offense moving. You want to get some flow into the stadium, into the fans, right? But the reality situation is, sometimes when nothing's down there, you have a free 5-10 yards every time if you just make the decision quick enough where you're like, I'm just going to roll up, roll out, roll up. Because what you do is, if you take enough time where everybody's already downfield, well, then everybody who's playing soft just comes down to play the run.
Right.
But if you don't hesitate when they're still 15, 20 yards in their drop,
that's kind of how Lamar's been playing.
That's what you have to do. And again, because the reality situation is, like he even said himself, it was coached out of him. He has to like Man in Black himself and go like, with the shit.
Yeah,
I haven't even seen the movie, but I know the meme and I know that shit. And I know they do something where they make themselves forget what they will learn. He's got to do that with them. He's got to Men in Black himself. He's got to say, fuck it. They don't know me better than I know myself. And obviously coach want the best for you, which is why they did that. But the reality of the situation is you're 1-4. The best thing for them and for you now is to win a lot of games because, like we said, Caleb's coming potentially. And if you want it, you got to make the resume as filled out as possible so that they don't go on the most generational guy they've ever had a shot at, if that is the case.
I agree.
I think it's just as simple as that at this point.
I agree. So in summary, I think my thing is like, I'm not off the Justin Fields bandwagon. Like a week ago, even after Denver, after his performance, I was like, yeah, okay, this is Denver. Now, the Commanders aren't great on defense, but at the end of the day, it's like you don't pick who you play. So my thing is, he needs to ball out against the good teams on the rest of the schedule. Like he needs to, like what he did against the Commanders, like that needs to be, I'm not talking about 4 touchdowns every game, but what he did, like that needs to be like the minimum for the rest of the year. Like he needs to throw for 280 and like not fuck up.
Yeah, I would say even just more than anything, he could even just go for 200, no interceptions, and give me like a rushing touchdown or a bunch of rushing yards. And that's the same thing. It's like but to your point, just productive, no turnovers. No turnovers. It's not going to be, that's not realistic. But let's minimize turnovers and let's get up that completion percentage. Sometimes that's my main thing. I'm concerned about Justin. Is sometimes on things that should be a little easier, it looks like he kind of like is either a little high, a little low, a little to the side. I just want to see him hit dudes in their chest a little more often. Yeah.
I think a big thing too will be beating Minnesota. If he can beat Minnesota, beat a division rival who went, I know the record's not great this year, but they went 13-4 last year. Like you obviously have to be in games to do that, even if it's one score. Let's shut some people up. Like let's and yes, Minnesota's defense isn't great, but let's do it. Like let's no more guessing. Like that's what I was kind of arguing today with like the Stroud shit is like sometimes these guys just look the part. And if they don't,
what you're really trying to say is I figured out, because this is how I'm looking at it now, bro. We know the Bears defense is probably likely going to shit the bed almost every week.
Yeah.
That's fine. That's to be expected. However, if the offense shits the bed in tangent, then it's got to be a sign.
Yeah.
That's really where it's at. Offense just got to do their thing.
Yeah. So this is going to be definitely an interesting storyline for the rest of the 2023 season because, this could really lead to a decade-changing moment for the franchise. It could be amazing. It could be catastrophic. So
can't be at this point. It couldn't be more catastrophic than like the 5 years and the beginning of the year you guys had to go through at this point. So you know what? I think that things made it finally started looking up.
Possibly.
All right. So something that I want to talk about and bring up, and this is no surprise to anybody. We're at a point where this has definitely become kind of the main topic, I would say, this week. I'm not surprising anyone with this one.
Yeah.
But we got to talk about it because it's reality. And like I say, I'm a realist. We gotta just talk about what's going on. Brock Purdy, right? Is Brock Purdy? I'm trying to, because I don't even want to use the same word everybody's been using, and everybody's just throwing around the E word nowadays.
The E
and I'm
word.
careful with the E word.
Elite.
Yeah, everybody throws around the E word crazy nowadays. Because so this is what I wanted to start with.
Okay,
this is what I really want to start with the whole curious case of Brock Purdy, aka Mr. Relevant, aka turn Mr. Relevant. Right? Is the situation is. He is in probably the most unique situation I've seen for a starting quarterback.
Right.
Maybe in my life. Because, I think I will say he probably is the most unique situation. I could be wrong. Check me in the comments if there's this crazy situation I forgot about. But look, right. So we never saw Brock Purdy coming. I mean, let's go back. Let's just go back in the timeline.
Nobody predicted this. And if you did, you're lying.
Yeah, let's just shoot back in the timeline here. Maybe his family, but mine is them. It's like they didn't. The family can claim it. Everyone else, it's like, yeah, absolutely not. So we're shooting back here with Jimmy G in the frame in the beginning. It's like, we thought, okay, they were committed to Jimmy G at first, and we didn't even see necessarily Trey coming, and then it starts to be okay. We can see the relationship starting to fall apart. Shanny and Jimmy, you see the writing on the wall. It's not going to work. Oh, well, here comes Trey Lance, the new generational, must have. But there was, he's viewed as a risk and yada yada. And what was crazy is at the time, I remember we were very rigid on it, at least myself, is I was like, no, it's got the guy he's got to want is Mac Jones, because I felt that that's who I thought, random side note, but that's who I thought he wanted to operate his offense, whatever. So I didn't think that Shanahan was going to be the one to take a shot on Trey Lance.
Yeah.
Knowing how raw, again, with the talent he had, but it was raw. So, and you knew, truthfully, everyone kind of knew in the back of their mind, potentially a volatile situation. If this goes wrong, again, like you said, in a lot of situations, it could go really wrong, and it would have gone really wrong. If not, for the 7th round, I mean, basically almost undrafted from Iowa State. And this is just, truthfully, I mean, it's already like a movie script to begin with. Everybody knows this. I mean, at this point, it's actually hilarious how much that it really does feel like a movie script out there. The way he's built and everything too. He's just Purdy looks like an underdog, but that's why this is so funny. Is we've turned a corner where I truly believe. I mean, he's operating the offense at such an elite level, but this is what brings it back to my thing. Is it is a unique situation in the sense of most quarterbacks that come in and play well, right? If you were playing at Brock Purdy's level when you come in playing at a rookie level, you normally don't have really much else around you. Like, the O-line, you have maybe a couple guys, but you got to work that in, and you got to work in the receiving core, and you got to work in a good defensive group, especially good pass rushers, because you don't fall into the situation where you're on a rookie contract where they already have everything else set up. Well, Brock Purdy really is the most rare, unique example I can think of where the guy that they had no intentions of starting, at least probably, yeah, like more, I'm sure when they drafted him, it was much more in the sense of, give me, and I even heard where Brian Greasy was behind it. The quarterback's coach where Shanny told him, give me a guy, where they're talking about on the broadcast the other night, where they were saying like, give me a guy can kind of just under the radar, like probably they were thinking more in the sense of, a good backup. Like if I ever need to really go to someone on short notice, something like that, someone's sick, something like someone's hurt for a week, I got him. Well, no, he's in the most unique situation ever. They have the receiving core, they have the O-line, they have the defense, and the 49ers are absolute juggernaut. That's what makes this though, where it gets really interesting, is because they're probably still going to be in a very good position when it's time to pay him, because regardless, the 2-3 year window, it's not that big of a fall off where, yes, people are going to start getting older, but you're still going to have the main core and stuff. They're going to have to make the decision right when people are starting to get older, right? It's like, is Purdy the guy? Because he's going to probably want, sure, a lot of money. He's playing at a very high level. But I guess if you're Shanahan and you're John Lynch, it's probably a point of like, who really cares at this point? Because it's money on the table for these next few years. We look at it in a sense of, when we watch the Niners right now, the Niners are dominating people. I mean, the Niners looks like at the moment, probably Super Bowl favorites. I think that's pretty consensus right now. Again, you never know. Injuries happen. But I guess, and it seems like that's kind of just how the Niners have been approaching things to an extent, is it's just like, you know what, let's just stay competitive this year. We're going to force our hand to stay competitive this year. Do what we got to do. The CMC trade, I remember we were talking about when the CMC trade happened. Yeah. It was this could go very wrong. You know what? They tend to be very, very big risk takers. And I guess it turns out that maybe I'm proving myself even wrong, where it's like they just maybe don't overthink it over there. They're like, with Trey, it was like, you know what? Let's not overthink it. We think we like him a lot. But then it went terribly wrong. I don't know. Like I said, though, do you normally have a guy like this? But then it brings you to the debate of, is he, like what everyone talks about, is he playing like this because of the situation? But that's where, and then there's so much shit back and forth. Because again, we've seen Jimmy in this situation. We've seen Trey in the situation. It's like, yeah, you can play well in the situation, but to be honest with you, 100%, Purdy is playing much better than they were, in the sense of he's just so on time. When you're watching Purdy at this point, it's like, yeah, you're watching a veteran. Like he's very on his checks. He's checking everything at the line. He's getting the ball at perfect timing on every route. It's not like you're watching a lot of young quarterbacks where, it's like the ball's behind the receiver. Like he is very, very like in that offense, and it looks like he's been running it for a very long time. So, regardless, if you're a Niners fan, you fell into a fantastic situation. The only time at this point it's going to become an issue really is when it's time to pay him. But that's just what makes this I guess the question I'm asking you is, because I think you have strong feelings about this, is it's like, what's your take? Like, and to the audience, like, is he a product of the situation, or is the situation elevated by him? Because we know the situation is great regardless, but does he, is he the great elevator, or is this team truly just at its peak where he is playing it at the perfect time?
Okay. He is elevating the system. He's elevating what he is. And I can't remember who said this, but they basically said, like, if Kyle Shanahan could go out and play quarterback, like, this is what Brock Purdy is doing. And you know why Kyle doesn't get quarterbacks who are going to play out of structure, because his offense is so, like, rhythm and time based and making the right decisions. Like, don't turn the ball over. Like, that's a huge thing. So what I will say is, do I think Brock Purdy would have success outside of the 49ers team? Probably not. Like, he could be a backup, but I don't think he's starting on another team. I think the Niners are so elite that it's like, no, this is not to discredit Brock Purdy. I think where he's limited is like natural talent. Like, I think he's one of those guys who's so cerebral that, like, he will excel because he's just so far ahead, and, like, he's so instinctual. But I think he makes the Niners elite, but I don't think he himself is elite.
I think, here's my thing. I'm with you in the extent of where it's like, as of right now, but if he can keep doing this, and here's what my thing I'm looking at this point is, if they can just he showed, if you put an O-line around him, and you give him time, I do think he could start on any team that has a good O-line. I do agree, though, if you put him into one of these situations where where some guys have a mobile guy where the O-line is not all the way built, he would completely shatter in those systems, because the way he plays, he needs an O-line. But the way he is getting the ball in time and everything, I will admit, he truly does look a lot more competent with the ball than a lot of quarterbacks that have been in the league, even him a lot longer at this point. So it's like, I'm starting to have to give him credit where it's due, where it's like, I was always very rigid on the train of, like, that, almost anybody can do it and look really good. But truthfully, the way he's looking right now, it really is, the way he looks right now, it does. It looks really good. But that's my thing, is I'm not all the way sold on how it would look in a couple years when he gets the bag. That's where it comes down to for me, is that's where it's going to get interesting. But regardless, let's talk about what's going on right now, because we're dealing with the right now. So he leads the league in adjusted net yards per pass attempt at 9.79. He leads the league in QBR at 83.7. Leads the league at QBR at 123.1. Or QB rate. Sorry, it's two different things. The QBR and then there's QB rate. No interceptions, 9 touchdowns, 1,271 yards. He's thrown it at a 72% clip, basically. I mean, I'll say the numbers are elite. And that's my point. It's like, I'm with you. It's like, in a lot of other systems, certainly we're not like anything like this. But if you give him, he's proven it. Like, if you give him an O-line, and if anything, too, the defense is playing really well. But I think regardless, the Niners offense can do what they want, and they haven't even really had to get into like a shootout type situation. No. I think if you made the man, I believe that we could see Brock really go sling for like 350, 400 yards. It's just that he really has not been. It's like they haven't really had to.
I want to see him in an average situation.
We'll see it. We will see a time where he's got to shoot out or something like that. And I think if I can just see one of those or a couple of those from him, I think at that point it will be undeniable for me that, man, maybe, regardless, he's playing at a special level. But I just need to see at this point. That's what I need to see from him.
Yeah, I don't want to hate on Brock Purdy, and I'm not at all. I don't know. Like, he's playing on another level right now. And I think what you said about paying him, I think that's really the kryptonite, right? Because it's like, let's say you're paying him, I mean, with the numbers he's putting up, you have to pay him at least, $45 million a year. Like,
well, but side note, now that I'm thinking about this, right? Like, and I didn't think about it till just now. But you know what? I can also see Brock being the type of guy where, again, the type of situation he's in too, where it's kind of like mutual. Like, you know what? You really took a chance giving me this job, and like we're working together for each other's success. How about I pull a Brady and like I'm willing to take a fat discount? Still good starter numbers, but like give me like 20 mil less than the guy who's leading, where it's like I'm willing to make this work so that you guys can still pay the guys that are willing to. And I could totally see him doing that
if they win a Super Bowl
and being like, you know what? I agree that I'm a product of the system. Let's keep it going that way.
But here's my thing.
If that happens, then this could keep going for a long time.
Let's say they don't win the Super Bowl this year. Let's say they don't win it next year, okay? Let's say he's in his contract year in 2025 and they haven't won a Super Bowl. They've made deep runs. I'm not taking that pay cut. Because why am I getting paid the least and we're not winning at all?
No, that's why. No,
and I'm one of the best.
The pressure's on Shaney. Because I'm sure, to be honest, they probably have discussed that internally. Like, the pressure's really on to like make the the future potential dynasty. You get my point, not dynasty, but like really long-term run of success with this man. It's got to start with us winning a ring and getting him on a team-friendly deal.
I agree. I just think, like, in my opinion, like, what I was listening, I can't remember who was saying this, but it was like, you shouldn't cut teams' deals because it's like, unless you're Brady, like, here's my thing is like, Daniel Jones, in my opinion, is now worth $40 million a year. I mean, I know that O-line is atrocious, but at the end of the day, like, that's the quarterback market we're living in. And here's what I will say. Okay. The 49ers remind me of, a team I'm going to talk about later, the Lions. Like, the Lions remind me of the 49ers, where it was kind of like, we talked about the McCaffrey trade, you know, and this is kind of like my own fault, is everyone, I feel like, for the last couple of years has been so analytical. Like, oh, no, you don't take this position. Like, you don't pay this position. But, bro, if they're the best player on the field, like, you have the best player on the field. Like, this is how I feel about the Lions. Like, they just got the best players. Like, it doesn't matter their position. They just have the best players. So, with the 49ers, that is my worry about if you pay Brock Purdy, because they're already strapped for cash right now. And they're not paying the quarterback. So if you pay the quarterback, are the weapons and line around him going to be good enough?
That's the whole thing about the Niners is going to be very interesting to watch. But also,
especially if they don't win the Super Bowl, because that is really what's going to be the deterrent for me if I'm Brock Purdy, if I'm taking less money. If I'm winning and you're building my legacy, maybe I take 10, 15 mil less. If we're not winning Super Bowls and I don't have a ring and I'm getting paid $1 million to run one of the best teams in the NFL, I don't know if I can do it. And like, my thing is, at that point where he gets paid, because my thing is, Ayuk needs a contract and they just paid Bosa. So is Debo out the door? Is Trent Williams still playing? Is fucking George Kittle still playing? Like, there's a lot out there. Like, those are very key players.
And honestly, we go back in time, a little time travel here for a sec. Again, with the Patriots, same concept. When they got Brady they got that ring right away where it was like, hey, look, we can do this again. We can do this again. And to your point, if the Niners don't do that, completely different. You can't guarantee nothing if he ever already got to the top of the mountain.
No. But yeah, no, I think Brock Purdy, I mean, just to kind of, unless you have anything else, like.
No, I think we hit all the bases I want to touch on.
All I want to say is, like, it has taken me a while to come around on Purdy, and it has never been like the hatred of him or like that I didn't like him. My thing is, like, all these people calling him elite when, like, don't get me wrong, like, I think he makes the system that he's in elite, but I don't think he is elite. You know, like,
no,
any other situation, like, let's throw fucking Brock Purdy on shit, even the fucking Vikings. Is he doing half of what he's doing even with Jay Jettas? I don't know.
Interesting situation.
You have a mid-O line, no run game. Like, I don't know. I really think CMC took them over the top.
No, absolutely. And that's the main thing. So that's why, if anything, we'll have to let this one marinate, and we're going to come back to, we'll definitely come back to this discussion once he gets paid.
All right, moving into something I want to talk about briefly, the end of the Patriots Dynasty. So I was looking at some stats this past, today, the day we're recording it. And, the Patriots just got blown out 2 weeks in a row, held scoreless this week against the New Orleans Saints. The Dallas Cowboys burn them out 38-3. Just a horrible look for Bill Belichick. Mac Jones was benched twice in the last 2 games. Now, obviously, if the game's out of hand, you might as well sit your QB1, but why can't your offense move the ball? So, just some things I wanted to take a look at out here, okay? So, the last time the Patriots finished outside of first, I split this up between the post-Brady era and then the Brady era. So, the post-Brady era is 2020 to 2023, okay? The Brady era, I started in 2001 all the way to 2019, okay? So the last time the Patriots finished outside first in their division was 2008. And the last time the Patriots finished other than second was 2000. So only twice in like a 20-year span have they not been first in their division. Okay.
That is crazy.
There was never a negative point differential in the Brady era. There has been 2 in the post-Brady era in just 4 years. And right now, they're at negative 76. The only team worse than them, I believe. Let me just do this right now. I believe. Okay, I'm not gonna pull it up because I can't. But it's the Giants. I believe the Giants is.
I think there's a real good shot you're right on that one.
Yeah, it is only the Giants. I knew it was. I knew it was. I just want to confirm. The Patriots are currently 32nd in points scored this year, and they have never finished outside the top 12 in the Brady era. In 2021, the Pats were 6th, but outside of that, they have not finished higher than 17 out of all the 4 years. And outside of this year, the defense has ranked pretty similarly to, in general, how it was in the Brady era. So basically, with all this said, if the Patriots go on to finish this year with a sub 500 record, will they move on from Mac Jones? Will they fire Bill Belichick? Brady went on to win a Super Bowl in Tampa Bay. Was it the first year he left, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was the first year he left. And Bill only has one wild card loss to show for it. Where do the Patriots go from here? We've reiterated this over and over again. The defense is still good. The offense is There's no identity. There's no star playmaker. Mac Jones is They've constantly moved their offensive coordinators around. Bill O'Brien, fucking Matt Patricia. I don't know why that was happening. It's just like kind of what we were just talking about with Sean Payton and Drew Brees. Like, Belichick has been in charge of player personnel. So, like, what? Like, after Brady is gone, like, show me something good they've done.
See, that's my thing that makes this such a problematic issue. I think I'll address it how I'm looking at it right now. I think what I would start doing is, and I'm literally going to give this to you exactly how I'm looking at it. I tell Bill, look, because if I'm Kraft, I'm like, look, man, this dude can coach his ass off when he's got the QB, right?
Right.
I'm like, look, I just got to get him the QB. Not only that, I got to take away some of the stuff I've given him. And by that, what I mean, you're saying like he's in charge of the whole player personnel. I think you got to be like, look, man, they got to have a real sit down, heart to heart. But it's gonna be like, bro, look, I know you can coach your ass off, but what I got to do is I got to let you have more time to focus on just that. Let me give the player personnel direction to someone else. But I'll tell you what, because we know Belichick can scout the hell out of D-backs. I'll be like, look, you can still have all the input on D-backs. Like, you tell me what D-backs you're looking at. Your word means all to me on that. But these other position groups, like receiver, all the other stuff, we're going to let someone else, we're going to let a whole other group take care of that because it's analytic based nowadays. A lot of other stuff that they look at, it's just different. Times have changed, right? So I'd be like, look, I still want you to coach the team because we know Belichick can coach. You just got to get him the guy, right? They definitely don't have that right now. So it's like, my thing is, it's a completely unfavorable situation for him regardless. I mean, it is. Right now, coach the Patriots, regardless of who you are, is going to be a very, very tough assignment because, like we said, they have no number ones.
The whole line's kind of falling apart. Like, that is his fault.
No, and that's my thing is I'm saying like that's why I agree. It's like, but they let him have too much reign to an extent. Like it's like that's a real thing that happened in life. Is you give someone too much room to like step their ground, even if they're really good at what they started doing or what they do, and they start trying to do too much and it's a mess, right? You got to like just let him do what he's really good at. I'd be like, look, man, you want it? I'm gonna take this away from you. If you want to leave, if you think that's insulting, like go ahead and walk out. But it's not like that. I want you to still be here and coach, right? I'd be like, be honest, like I want you here.
It's just not working.
I just can't have you doing a lot of extra shit.
But let me ask you this though, Dobbs, like. I think there is such a thing of like, I don't think he's adapted enough to the modern NFL. And like,
but
I think sometimes that may just be like, either he needs a change of scenery or like he just may be cooked.
But it's also like you're saying, and it is his fault because all the guys he keeps bringing in, that's where it really needs to change. And like you said, with anything, none of this stuff can be his decision anymore. I don't think in terms of like, yeah, like maybe let him get some input, but not like how it was before where he's like, no, I want this in my OC and I want this in my DC. Clearly, yeah, to your point on that, he is outdated in terms of who he wants on the roster and the type of maybe certain, especially the offensive schemes that he's targeting. Yeah, certainly are not favorable for a lot of quarterbacks nowadays. And yeah, they that's the main thing is where it comes in for the Patriots Dynasty is and this is just my opinion. You know, if anyone else says, you know, I have a different opinion, I completely respect it. My opinion, I would keep Bill as only the coach, and I'd give him, and I'd be rigorous in the terms of like, look, man, you're not going to have all this other stuff you used to have. It's like you either take going back to just the pure coach role and that it is what it is, and you let us start to like really develop a modern team around you.
Yeah.
Or we got to start fresh. Because again, worst case scenario of starting fresh, and honestly, that's why I think a lot of Patriots fans favor that nowadays, bro. Like, I think they're kind of ready to move on to an extent. So I think no matter how you're looking at it, it's not really there's not really a worst case scenario, because you either let Bill coach his ass off again and he's willing to do it and is able to do it, or you know what? Time really has a way of always bringing things back to, it has to be how it has to be, right? Like, eventually the Patriots were going to have to suck again, and they were going to have to go through a period of change, and it is what it is. So it's like,
yeah, see, so here's my thing with that. While I do agree, and Patriots fans may be ready, and maybe they're just ready to move on. Maybe they want a new start. When you grow up with Bill Belichick and Tom Brady like being your guy, I remember when they had Mac Jones after his rookie year, and everyone's like, oh, yeah, we're good.
Oh, I vividly remember too.
It's just like, when you have success for so long, you tend to become jaded and don't understand how hard it is in the NFL to get things right. So my thing is like, Patriots fans, are you really ready to move on from one of the best coaches of all time?
That's what, no, to this point, I want to add on to this. I've been hearing a lot of Patriots fans recently, like on this whole, like, it's like this sorrow train, like, well, none of these games mean anything. It's like, hold on a minute. Like, it's like you said, from another fan base perspective, bro, appreciate the games you have. Like, football is football at the end of the day, man. Like, you know what? Be appreciative if you got a winning team, but you got to show up for them regardless, man. A little side note section for a minute, but this is real stuff. Like, a lot of people, and Patriots fans specifically, there are a lot of fan bases that will get spoiled too early on in their fandom too. It actually almost ruins the sport for you going forward.
Yeah.
If you're not grounded, you're not a grounded individual, because then you expect it every year. And look, man, you got to love football. Real talks. This is random, not related to Patriots Dynasty at all, but you got to love football for football.
Yeah.
Like, you can't just love it because your team's winning. And to that point, it's like, if you're a Patriots fan, you got to stick with them and understand that, yeah, of course this was going to happen post Brady. Like, the writing was on the wall for this to happen. And I'll admit, Mac did look pretty damn good his rookie year. But again, situations have changed, certain injuries happened,
but that's the thing too,
offensive coordinators keep changing. And regardless of if he can develop a good skill set for the league in the future, which I still think could happen, I don't think the Patriots is the spot for it. It's going to be like some fresh start shit for Mac Jones at this point, right? Like, I almost look at him like he could be like a Tannehill-esque career arc.
You don't think he could operate the Jets offense?
Well, like, that's what I'm saying is, like, to be realistic, yeah, there's a lot of situations right now where you put Mac Jones, he'd look a lot better. That's why I want to be clear. Like,
now with that O-line,
I give him a lot of slander.
I thought about that.
No, that's true. But I give Mac a lot of slander, and he's playing really bad compared to his rookie year. But the reality situation objectively is too, he's in a really tough situation to play in. They have a really bad receiving core, really bad O-line group right now, which sounds weird to say, an injured group. So it's like the running back core is not good. I loved Ramondre. He's not playing good this year. Zeke is not who he used to be. The reality situation is, it's just the Patriots themselves are a complete shell of themselves. And every Patriots fan knows it. It's not even like this is a shot at them. It's the reality of the situation. But again, like we're talking about, it's like, how does the situation turn around? I do believe that would be best case. Getting Bill to buy back in to just coaching. You know, you're getting older. Let's just be realistic for a second too. You're getting older. Why do you want a million things on your plate? Sometimes as you get older, you maybe need to have a little less on your plate. Let us, you know, have some trust in the organization to an extent that we're going to put the right stuff around you. And then it's just got to go from there. But if he's not willing to do that, then you got to start fresh.
Yeah, I really do think this could be like the end of an era. I think, honestly, like the new team is going to be the Chiefs. Like, obviously, like this has been discussed. Like, we've kind of known this, but I just don't see the Patriots bouncing back anytime soon in a division like the AFC East, where you have such young talent in other teams. And like I said, Patriots fans, just know if you let Bill Belichick go and Mac Jones go, what you are walking into.
Could you not see, let's be realistic for a second, side note. Last thing on this, we'll move on. But I mean, can you not see them telling Bill to get lost and then see him going to like RB, all right, bet, and finding a team that's looking for a coach with the roster that's ready to compete?
Yeah.
And then out of nowhere,
definitely.
just having the best defense and their QB looks really good. And you're like, oh, yeah, maybe that's why, yeah, that shouldn't have happened.
Let's do this right now, actually. Let's go through all the NFL teams. You know, no, here's what we'll do. We'll go to NFL teams. We'll go to their standings, and we'll grab like teams that are at the bottom, okay? and we'll see if they would need a new coach. Panthers, would he go there?
I think you still got to give Frank a little more time.
Yeah, I don't like Frank Reich, but I don't think we have to decide if they're getting a new coach and also if Bill Belichick will go there.
Exactly.
So Broncos not going to happen. Cards,
just from the optics, the Broncos literally cannot happen.
There's no chance. I mean, they're too invested in Peyton and Russ. Cards, no way. Pats are already low. Giants, no way. Vikings, no way.
Yeah, that's just again from the optics situation too. It's like if the Vikings did that after they finally looked like they got it's like you can't, and you just fired Zimmer. If you can't
realistically, and I don't even think it's an opening because I think it's Bieniemy's team. If Ron Rivera leaves, the Commanders might be the only team, in my opinion, that Bill would probably fit on. I mean, that's like the only team that really would need a coach like that. No, I mean the Cowboys.
Could you imagine though? Because yes, the thing is, let's be realistic for a second. If you were a Jerry and the team has another mediocre year, and by mediocre I mean just winning one playoff game and not doing anything else. For the standard of this team, that's what mediocre would be. I mean, if you have Bell and Bell is, I mean, it's like he's sitting on your lap. Like let's say he gets fired and you have a decision to make. Are you not bringing him in? Because I'll tell you what, I certainly would. Because my decision at that point would be like, look, especially if you're Jerry, I'm getting older, man. It's like I want to see this team win one more fucking ring. My best shot is to bring in Bill at that point. Again, that's all hypothetical.
Yeah,
but.
So Washington and Dallas.
The Dallas one's kind of got me thinking.
Dallas.
Could you see him winning a ring with that simulation breaking shit?
Bro, I mean, that defense is like.
If you get him and Dan Quinn working together, you could low-key see special results on that defense.
That would look
special the first couple
that
weeks.
Would definitely be something Jerry Jones would do.
I always saw him. This is what I'm saying is like, it sounds crazy, but it's not.
No.
Which is why it low-key.
Oh, fuck. We're on to something.
It's like a prime Cowboys move. So the next thing I wanted to discuss, and not only did I want to discuss it, truthfully at this point, it needs to be discussed. Because they are truly doing this man such a disservice. He's playing his best season, in my opinion, he's ever played in the league. And yes, I'm saying when you put this in tangent with MVP season, because yes, the MVP season was special on the ground, and yes, Lamar MVP. But let me just say, in terms of passing, in terms of decision-making, in terms of him actually throwing the ball, this is his best year so far. And his receiving core, the Ravens receiving core, a bunch of sellers. It's becoming a hot topic, and it has to. Because this falls, in my opinion, on the organization's shoulders, right? This was a thing we all kind of saw coming. And by we, I just mean the NFL populace as a whole. If you're into the NFL, it's kind of like, yeah, the Ravens have, like we said last week, they're really, really solid at like everything. And they're not elite at anything. But if you had to pick out the group, it's like, oh man, it's the receiving core. And there's been a little, there's always been like optimism here and there. Like, oh, is Bateman going to make the jump? Like, oh, we added Zay Flowers. Like Zay Flowers is for sure like a certified number one, yada, yada. And don't get me wrong. I think Zay has great upside and I think Zay's going to be a good receiver for a long period of time. However, right now this year, he's clearly not an absolute go-to number one in plenty of situations. It just is what it is, as we've seen. So we're in a situation now where the Ravens are completely ready to compete for the Lombardi, but you got a group of receivers that genuinely, I think they come out with like, I don't know if they were like holding like a beef jerky stick or something or eating something like that with the gloves on pre-game. It's looking like somebody's passing out the wrong snacks or something because every single receiver, this has been a problem at this point where the drop rate is out of control. Last week specifically, so many balls Lamar was delivering right on the money. I mean, literally like touchdown balls where it's like, and just inexcusable.
2 touchdowns are dropped.
No, and that's just not just this game, but two from this game. So we're at a point now where genuinely they're taking multiple touchdowns off the board for him, taking up hundreds of yards off the board, literally. Where does this offense go? Because again, like we were saying back to the whole before the year thing, the writing on the wall was, look, right, signing OBJ sounds cool, right? But if he can't stay healthy and he doesn't come back playing like he was before the injury, really, what is this receiving core? And this is what it is. A group of solid blockers that have butterfingers. And unfortunately, like I said, I'm giving Zay the benefit of the doubt. Zay's young, good talent. I think Zay looks like how a lot of young receivers look. They're inconsistently consistent and they make splash plays. And he does the right things you want to see from him. And he's got great talent. But he's not number one right now. And for a Super Bowl contending team, I just think, to be honest, they've put Lamar into a dire situation where, like I'm saying, and he's playing at his best level. So let's pull up the stats from this year. So this year so far, Lamar's thrown 10,030 yards. He's thrown at basically a 70% clip. The 4 touchdowns and 2 interceptions. Again, the touchdown number should be much higher. And then, my apologies, the way this. And we go down to the rushing. Again, 265 yards on the ground, 4 rushing touchdowns. You know, he puts up 50. Hold on, my apologies. Puts up, 53 yards a game, basically, on average. And so it's like, we know what Lamar does with his legs. Lamar's amazing. Lamar should be winning more games, and it's because this receiving. I mean, they should have beat the Steelers this week, right? Your team that should be 4-1. That's worst case scenario where, you know, normally you can kind of like, if you blame one guy, it's tough. And it's like, yeah, but it feels better that you can just put it on one guy. When you're the Ravens at this point, you're like 4 guys every single week that are playing 40 plus snaps a week where you're putting it all of them. And you're like, yeah, I'm terrified of all those guys touching the ball. Terrible situation to be in. So what's your opinion on how the Ravens need to handle this? Where do they go from here? What's the situation looking like in the future?
Yeah, so here's my opinion on this. I like Zay Flowers. I like OBJ. I am indifferent on Rashad Bateman and indifferent on Aguilar. And it's just like, it feels like Lamar, the main reason he held out is not because of the guaranteed money, but because like they had refused to put an offense around him. And I think Lamar knew who he was, and he was probably like, I'm not going to continue to go out here and carry the offense and then be told I'm the issue, not by the Ravens organization, but by the media and all that stuff. Can he throw the ball? Can he do this? And then, you know, he's PFF's second graded passer this year, right behind Jared Goff. And you know how electric Jared Goff and the Lions offense is looking. So I guess my thing is like, I don't know, man. Like, they went and got him guys, but like, imagine Lamar with like a DJ Moore. Like, what Justin is being able to do with DJ Moore has like, even these last 2 games has really like changed your perception of like possibly what Justin can do. And the guys that got him, it's just like, Zay Flowers isn't a number 1 to me. Like, I would have rather them went with Jordan Addison.
He's a great slot. That's exactly. But, and to your point, it's like this with the DJ Moore thing. Does this not feel like deja vu? Has this not been every year of his career? We're like, oh, wow. Imagine if they just gave him any type of elite talent at the receiver. I mean, we keep having to imagine. They refuse.
They dropped 7 balls on Sunday.
Here's what makes no sense, too. They gave OBJ a bag. Why didn't you give the bag to someone who was going to produce at that level? It doesn't even make sense to me.
I would have rather them traded that 1st round pick and like maybe like a 3rd for T. Higgins.
Well, and don't get me wrong. I know Ravens fans are going to be like, well, it's just a 1-year bag. Yeah, well, guess what? It's still 1 year. It's $15 million out the door regardless. You might as well have given the $15 million to somebody over a 3-year period that you were actually faithful that it was going to be long, like there was going to be longevity.
Well, then honestly, it just pushes the problem till next year because let's say they win a playoff game this year. Okay, you're back to Zay Flowers being your wide receiver 1. Like, are you going to draft another 1st round receiver? Like, are you like, you have to go. Mark Andrews, to me, like, he's really good too. And like, you always got to throw him in there as like a pass catcher. But like, I just think also another thing too that we're not talking about, like while you're talking about the pass catchers, is like, their running backs can never stay healthy. And like, I like Gus Edwards is next as much as the next guy. And like, I've never been too high on J.K. Dobbins. And I've kind of been like, you know, go get like a better running back in there. I almost feel like we could see like the Ravens elevate if they got like a top talent guy. Like, imagine throwing like a Saquon or a Josh Jacobs in that offense. I would rather they give them $15 million than OBJ.
So you know what? Fuck it. Wasn't even thinking about it. But not only yet, now that you're mentioning it, it just adds insult to injury because they've never given the man, truthfully, and this is the thing. So I'm respectful to him because I loved him coming out of college. You know, J.K. Dobbins, talented guy, he's got a great skill set. He just can't stay healthy. And when you got a guy with a great skill set that can't stay healthy, the skill set at the moment is as good as useless, right?
Yeah.
My point when I'm saying this is the Ravens have literally never given this man anybody at the elite in the backfield or in front of him.
No.
And to the point now, I'm going to bring it up on the side. Let's just call it for what it is. Tyler Linderbaum's the only offensive line playing good on the team right now, right? It's like, and he's still making it work. They still are a good offense. they're making it work. Don't go, they're not battle line. I'm just saying that he's playing it at where you're like there. He's playing at a really good level. As you point at Tyler Linderbaum. My point, why I'm saying this again, all this stuff comes back to if you gave the man even just one elite and really above average running back, even to your point, because I love Gus, but yes, you want to see maybe Gus being in tangent with someone else who's a little more electric. You give him a little zoom and boom kind of combo. They don't have that. If you just had anything like that, but that's why I'm getting pissed off. Is it keeps having to be. Imagine Lamar with this. Why can't the Ravens just go like, yeah, I'm tired of imagining. Let's have the most electric offense in the league. If you gave Mike McDaniel Lamar right now. I mean, you get my point. But you get my point. I'm saying, would the Ravens not want to be in a situation like that? Clearly fucking not.
I don't really understand, like, don't get me wrong, their defense is really, really good. But like you said, like they just can't stay healthy. I just it's kind of like a little bit reminiscent of kind of like the Patriots offense. It's like, we don't need these guys. We're good enough.
I would literally just think about that. And I say the big difference and the only difference really to an extent is just you a guy like Tom, you can force him to work like that. He's never going to move. With Lamar, it's like you can't force him just sit still and wait for these really slow receivers to make their break and maybe get open. Like because that's the way Lamar doesn't play that same way. Like you say, Lamar's not like, yes, he has cerebral moments and all that, but in a sense, he does not play like the Brock Purdy style, the Brady style, like check, 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 check. It's more like, I'm going to check, I'm going to start moving, I'm going to feel out of the pocket. Like, that's just how he is. That's every quarterback has to play their strengths. That has to be Lamar. That is Lamar. And don't get me wrong, he's been killing in the pocket this year. I'm just saying, you don't want to force him to have to be a statue. That's stupid. When you have someone like him and his talent, you got to use it accordingly, right? That's what it comes down to.
It's just like, I mean, I don't really have much else to say on this. It's just like, you've really exhausted, I feel like, your options at receiver. If Nelson Aguilar is like a good number 5, like, it's just like, they got him help, but I just think like kind of like not in the same sense, but the same like process of like when Poles traded for Claypool for the Bears. Right idea, wrong execution. Like,
and a lot of people saw the fucking writing on the wall again for that. Like, we were definitely people again. I think you guys were trying to be more favorable towards it because you're the team who are in the receiving end. You're not going to be non-optimistic for no reason. Right? We had. But the reality of the time was like, I'm looking at it, I'm like, dude, that could be like any receiver you want basically outside the first round at worst case scenario.
Yeah.
And it's like, what the? I don't know. That's just that. Yeah. They
Could have
definitely
been
did.
Josh Downs could have been. Yeah.
It's just. It should have been Joey Porter Jr. to be honest, but
yeah,
Joey Porter Jr. should have been a Bear. Headline of the day, so fucked up.
But yeah, no, I mean that's all you had on the Ravens.
No, I think we covered all the bases though. And last thing, I didn't even include Mark Andrews just because Mark Andrews is a beast, but again, you can't if you're just giving it's literally the Patriots 2.0 fake Patriots like you were saying, but you cannot expect Lamar to make a masterclass of that because that's just not the style that you want to force him to play. It just all comes down to you got to let the man play to his strengths as you should.
Moving into my last topic of the day, I just want to talk about the rise of the Detroit Lions. They're 4-1 right now. 4-1.
The crystal ball.
So let's give a little bit background on the Lions. Brad Holmes, their GM, and Dan Campbell, their head coach. They were hired in 2021. Ben Johnson's been with the team a little bit longer, but he was really promoted to the OC role in 2022. So in 2021, they're 3-13-1. Okay. Last year, they were 9-8. This year, they are 4-1. Okay. So before we look at these records, okay, let's separate them out into 2 time periods. Because as we know, the Lions started off the 2022 season pretty bad. Like, I believe it was 1-6 or something like that.
They were getting so close every game. It's
Bro, they're fucking up. So, all right, let's start in 2021, and we'll go to week 9 or week 8, my apologies, of 2022. Okay. The record at that point would be 4-19-1. So that's 24 games with a winning percentage of .187. Atrocious, damn near war crime, fireable offense. If you were to just look at the numbers, okay? After that, from week 9 of 2022 to the present, they are 12-3. That is 15 games with an .800 winning percentage. Okay. through that time, they've had some very notable draft picks since 21. Mind you, this is when the new regime is in. And 3 to 4 players every year have been contributors. Penei Sewell in 21, Aleem McNeil, Amon-Ra St. Brown. We see what they're all doing. Both of them have Sewell and St. Brown have really blossomed. McNeil's more coming to his own this year. 22, they had 2 first-round picks, Aiden Hutchinson. J-Mo with an asterisk. We really don't know what he's going to be. Malcolm Rodriguez, Kirby Joseph. This year, Jahmyr Gibbs, Jack Campbell, Sam Laporta, Brian Branch, all 4 of these guys have been really good. Really good.
This is like that Saints 2017 or 18. Very similar type of class from the Lions. Side note.
So this is just to say that like they also had a pretty good 2023 free agency class, getting Monty in there, and he's been great for them. Great change of pace back from like what Jahmyr Gibbs is supposed to be.
I was so wrong. I'll give credit. I would say I admit when I'm wrong. I was wrong.
Wrong.
Very wrong. That was
very
worth the money.
jaded as a Bears fan too. I did not think he was this good. I knew he was that good, but like
he really is a workhorse behind a good old line.
Oh my God, he's ridiculous.
He really is.
So here's my thing. In a time where the NFC North is wide open, and with A-Rod leaving, QB questions in Chicago, Kirk being on the last year of his deal, the Lions are really set up to succeed for the next 2 to 3 years, depending on how the Bears come around and depending how Jordan Love pans out. Anyway, Goff has played well under Ben Johnson, and he's put up like more than respectable numbers. And the main point I want to make about this is this rebuild feels really different than a lot of other rebuilds because they really started in 21, if you think about it. And their draft picks were kind of questioned at the time, especially this year, taking the linebacker and the running back in the first round. But at the end of the day, the Lions literally just took the best players. They didn't care about anything else. They didn't look at the position shit. They didn't look at all that. They said, we want the best players. Jahmyr Gibbs, best player available. I mean, Bijan was gone. I think you could separate Bijan from the rest of the running backs. Jahmyr Gibbs, best player. Jack Campbell, best linebacker. Sam Laporta, arguably best tight end. Brian Branch, fact that he fell out of the first round.
Best hybrid. Like we didn't really know what he was going to be at the time, but it was like just best Swiss Army.
So it's like you have 4 starters that you drafted this year in the first round to second round. Were Sam Laporta third round?
No, second.
Second, okay.
Hold on. I'm almost certain he was second. I'm just going to fact check.
Basically, my point is, in a league full of analytics and like positional value,
yeah, second.
Maybe just don't overthink it, because that's really seems to be what the Lions have done. And like, you see how Goff's playing. Like, they can win with Goff.
You know, quick little. You know, I think we're really killing on the side notes today. We're going crazy on the side notes today. You know what? Side note here again. We're going to draw it up. You know, with Jack Campbell, we've had an interesting time period with the NFL, where I think, and just football as a whole, where linebackers are still really, really valuable, but for whatever reason, it's just become like the mass, like I'm trying to think of the right word here. What's the word? Like consensus? Like that people are just kind of like, yeah, you know, like just kind of like forget about the linebackers. They're not the most, you know, just you kind of like think about them last when you're building a defense. Hear me out. We look at all the best defensive units in the league. Not all of, actually, yeah, almost all of, and you point out the guy that's the Mike linebacker that dominates the entire thing. They call out all the audibles. They do. I'll name a bunch of free right now. We got Demario Davis, Matt Milano, Fred Warner. Like, you need that guy. You need that guy on the defense. And for whatever reason, teams just don't even think about it. The Lions said, "Fuck it, I'm getting my mic. Give me him. Give me my play. Give me my signal caller. I need him." You know what? Fucking looks great now. And I was one questioning at the time too. So
we were at the draft like, oh, what the hell are the Lions
the Jahmyr
doing?
One still, and this thing is, don't get me wrong, it is going to look good. The Jahmyr one right now is still one where you could look at it and scratch your head to an extent because with how Monty's playing. Truthfully, they could have honestly hit this probably regardless even harder if they took another insta starter. But that's the thing is, I'm just saying that now. When Jahmyr starts getting more starting touches, and if Monty were to get injured, and Jahmyr goes for 150 and has 100 receiving yards, you know, my opinion's going to switch instantly. So it's just like, he just hasn't really had a chance to shine yet. But you get my point. Regardless, the Lions could have hit either way, and they went crazy.
Yeah. I mean, imagine they took Christian Gonzalez.
Yeah, so we could think of even more things. Correct me if I'm wrong. They could have taken Jalen Carter. I mean,
No. Well, I mean, if they would have moved up, yeah. If they didn't drop all the way to 12,
that's
they
right.
would have.
I forgot. I keep forgetting. Okay, that they dropped. My apologies. But yes, they originally could have. That's what. Yeah,
man. If they would have took Jalen Carter,
why did they not?
I get why they didn't. Because like Campbell's whole thing has been like no turds.
No, right.
I get it. We can argue the Jalen Carter pick for a lot of teams.
Again, honestly, I do think he really did. We won't even go in it for long. He really just did fall to the best situation. Truthfully, maybe one of the situations, it just had to be the Eagles.
And I was also thinking about like the Claypool shit and how bad that went, how quick it did. I'm like, I don't know how Jalen would have did here if that's
it. Truly was just like a football divine intervention. The football gods were like, no, dude, he needs to go to a team that just like already is together.
Yeah, but no, I mean, there wasn't really much behind this other than to highlight like how well the Lions have done with this rebuild. And especially with it only being like really like 2.5 years, it really shows you don't need like, I mean, obviously that Stafford trade jump-started them. And this is what I will say. This is kind of what gives me hope for the Bears. How quick they were able to turn it around. And it was really jump-started by having a lot of draft capital. If they get the number 1 pick and they keep Justin, look how Goff turned it around.
That's what I was just, I don't even have to say it now.
Like Goff is 28, 29. He turned it around.
And we were questioning Goff at a much later point in his stage of development than Justin was. You remember when we were questioning when he was like 26, where it's like he might be falling off the rails. Talking about Goff.
And you net 2-3 first rounders for the first overall pick. And like
if you put a really good O-line around Justin, which is that needs to be priority at this point. Darnell looks really good. You got like, but now you got to like really hone that in.
If Tevin can stay healthy, Nate Davis can stay healthy.
If he can stay healthy, I mean, it's at this point.
That's what I'm saying. Like they have maybe 3-4 pieces already figured out.
That's why it's like the Bears are. It's starting to come together, but they need another. You need. I'll stand on it forever. Every great team in history is always that. They always have it. You need at least 2 very formidable tackles.
Yeah,
and I mean, you're at the point you're playing, like because you already have the Darnell right. Now you need another guy across from him. Where it's
Olu.
Like, wait, what?
Olu or Joe Alt this year.
That's the thing. You know what? That would be I've been thinking that is certainly the best case scenario for you guys is getting one of those guys because it's not the flashy stuff, but I guarantee, and we know it. You know too. That's the stuff that wins you championships. Yep. You need those picks.
Yep. So yeah, no, this was much more just a highlight. Like, congrats to the Lions, man. They did this right. Like, I know it's only like they're 5 games in, but they did this. They did this the right way, and like it's very commendable to see like a franchise who has been so down in the dumps pick themselves back up so quickly. So
they were right on cue for our narratives too. Like, the Hot Lions narrative started last year. They were letting us completely down. Maybe the Bears are going to be on the same arc. Is it deja vu?
Bro, but I still think Eberflus has to go.
Oh, yeah. No, there certainly is a keen difference where with the Lions, we were like, man, Dan is so fucking close, man. Just give him a chance. With Eberflus, it's like, I think this motherfucker's the reason.
Yeah.
This ship is shit, it's completely flooded. The walls have burst from the inside. Final thing I want to talk about today. I'm sure every Bills fan out there is going to agree with me completely at this point. You know, we know that any given Sunday, the Bills can be a dominant team. But it feels like if you're a Bills fan, you probably want to see more continuity. You want to see more consistency from this team, right? You know, it's starting for me to feel like, and I'm trying to think of the right team to compare them to from the past. But, you know, there's always those teams every year. It could be even any sport where you're like, yeah, you know, they got juice. But the reality is they never have juice long enough and consistently enough to ever deliver on anything crazy. That's how it's starting to feel with the Bills. Because I look at it from a playoff run perspective, right? The Bills, like I'm saying, they go out and they go score 48, 50, 55, whenever. It's like randomly. But then there will always inevitably be a time within a week or 2 weeks after that they just not lay an egg, but they like, you know,
they fall flat.
They fall really flat. And you're like, I don't feel like I'm watching the same team. That to me is always the worst case scenario. I mean, for when you have a competitive team, that's the worst case scenario for a competitive team because like we know in the NFL, you have got to go on that 3-4 game run. And it's just right now, and from my opinion, it's like the Bills struggle so much with that. And again, we'll go over this year to begin with because it's what we have right now. But and this has not just been in this year's trend. But even, okay, let's even just start with week 1, as we know is one of the 2 losses, right? It's like, oh, you know, they have everybody, even people that had nothing to do with it, did not care about football. If they were watching the game with their family, I'm sure they were thinking like, oh my goodness, You know, how could you possibly give more momentum to the away team than what just had happened? The Bills did nothing to seize it. They didn't play with much passion. Again, week one, I understand. But all I'm saying is, regardless, the inconsistency is concerning because here we go. Okay, then the next week, the 38-10 against the Raiders. And don't get me wrong, the Bills offense is elite no matter how you slice it. And the defense is elite. That's what makes this rather interesting, is because that's why I bring it up, is they are elite on both sides of the ball. It's just the effort needs to start being the same every single week. There are weeks where they deliver heavy, like they did against the Raiders, like they did against the Commanders, right? Like they did against the Dolphins. But then there's always inevitably happens a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks afterwards, like last week. And again, maybe you're putting it on the fact that they went to London, right? Okay, that's probably a big thing too, though people were discussing. Yes, I understand a flight, all that. But regardless, you know, the Bills, I think we would expect them to go in here and handle their business. Not the Jags are a bad team. We know the Jags are a good team. One of your teams you thought had a chance to go on, and you know, still technically they have a chance to like an AFC favorite potentially. But regardless, this just was a game that they fell flat again. And the narrative has been for a while now, and for me, it will continue to be, it's just they fall flat at sometimes very crucial moments where it feels like they're really building up a lot of momentum. And it makes you just question, you know, why this happens. And I think a thing too that I used to try to put it all on Josh Allen. But the truth of the matter is, it's not even all the way on Josh Allen, where Josh Allen will because Josh Allen will have games like yesterday where I'm not going to put that on Josh. The whole team itself just showed up flat. And I guess that's just, you also can look at it, I guess, from a perspective of like, it's the league and it's hard to show up as the best version of yourself every week. But I guess that's the thing I want to shift it to, is it's like on the version where you're not your best self, you still want to see the team be able to slip out one. And it seems like whenever they don't show up as their best self, that's the ones that they lose. And it's like, that's volatile because we want to be able to show up on not your best day and still find a way to pull it out. I guess that's my main point. I'm going to like round it out to.
Yeah. So here's my thing. As elite as Josh Allen is, and as elite as Stephon Diggs is, your defense hasn't allowed more than 20 points a game this year. So it's like, if you guys are really, no, they haven't allowed more than 25 points. My bad. I was looking at this wrong.
I see what you were doing. No, I just did the same exact thing as you, though. That's hilarious.
They haven't allowed more than 25 points this year. And my thing is like, if you're an elite unit, I feel like you got to score at least 4 touchdowns a game. Like, I know you have off weeks, but like, you shouldn't have lost to the Jets.
That's the thing, is with the way the defense is playing, you're getting the ball so many times.
Like, you shouldn't have lost to the Jags. Like, now I'm a big Jags guy. So like, I think the Jags have not been playing as good as they actually are. But at the end of the day, you shouldn't lose that game. I know you're in London. Like, there's an excuse, but realistically, I mean, like, there's just random games that I can see. Like, they should not lose to the Chargers in December, but I could see them losing to the Chargers in December.
No, and back to what we were just talking about before with another topic with O-lines. Look, my thing is the Bills are built basically at this point, literally everywhere else. Tight end is getting a little bit where, look, and I think, but you know how it was about Dalton Kincaid. Give him some time. It's very rarely do rookie tight ends just come on and pull a Sam Laporta.
Yeah.
Give him some time. I think he's going to be really, really good, if not an elite tight end. But the situation right now, I'm saying is, the one point besides where I'm going to get to next, where you can maybe circle and be like, okay, they're a little weak there. But point is, the spot you don't want to be weak the most is that their O-line is nothing special this year.
It's
below average this year. And Deion Dawkins is the only person playing above average right now. And maybe you say, I'll say Deion Dawkins is playing at a good level, right? He's playing at a good level. But reality situation is they're built everywhere else. And back to the main point is, it's like, so the two worst things about it is they sometimes just don't show up in big weeks and out of nowhere after they're building momentum. And then on top of that, you're probably weak at the position group you just would want to be weak the least.
Yeah.
It's a volatile recipe for when it becomes playoff time, and that will keep being the narrative until the Bills don't make it. It's just like, are you guys, because there's a difference between getting outplayed, right? Like we've seen the Bills get outplayed and you're like, wow, they played a perfect game, like Chiefs example, and you're just like, they just lost. But it can't be that every single time they lose. And it's like, my thing is, I just don't want to see it become to a point where that's the normal, where they just fold in a big game, they fold in a playoff game. It cannot keep being. They have got to just keep, if anything, like you're saying, I just want to see just good consistency. If you lose in a good shootout and it is what it is, and you lost the game and you get outplayed, then let it be that way. But it feels like a lot of times that when the Bills lose, they outplay themselves. Like they you know what I'm saying? Like they're beating themselves.
They shoot themselves in the foot. I think honestly a big problem, and this has been talked about with the Bills for quite a while, and I I feel like they never fully address it. They have no run game. We started
Back to the O-line.
We started it, or we talked earlier this year that they may have developed something, but they just don't have a run game. Like, and I honestly think that this has more to do with like scheme, because it's like ever since they lost Dable, it just feels like they haven't necessarily had that juice on offense, and it's just like, yeah, Diggs is good, Davis is decent, but it's like, if teams can sell out to stop the pass and like your run game is nothing special, I mean, like, I don't know. Like,
that's why I'll stand on it. Running first is always the move. Run first. Being able to pass elite on top of being run first is the championship formula, in my opinion, always has been. Right? It's just like, that's just how it is.
Unless you're the Chiefs.
Obviously, even with them, though, I think last year would be an example where it's like they got the run game home probably the best that they've been able to get it going.
Yes.
In the Mahomes era. And again, how much did it pay dividends when they needed it?
I think it's
when Mahomes was injured in the bowl and they needed it. So you get what I'm saying? Like, and again, we saw the year they were past heaven, they didn't have the run game, and we saw how it went against the Bucs in the bowl. So, you get my point on that.
I think it also has to do with the fact that their O-line is probably the best it's been. So they're able to do that.
No, certainly. But that's, again, back to the Bills.
Yeah.
It's like that is where the issue's coming in. And like you were saying with the scheme thing, bro, we're seeing Zach Moss put up legendary numbers over there in Indianapolis, and you're like, hold on a minute. Yeah, it has to be scheme related because you guys have more weapons over here, and somehow they're making him go for 150 every other week.
Even with the backup QB in. Like, they know they're running the ball.
There's no excuse for the way that the Bills run game operates. And it's just more anything. The O-line is just not good right now. I'm just going to call it for what it is. You don't think people are bringing it up. The Bills O-line is a suspect.
I guess my thing, too, is like, do you just like what happens after this year if they don't win it?
That's what I'm saying. You put, and again, for a guy like Josh, a guy who's as crazy as Josh, you want to give him the best O-line possible because you limit the craziness when he doesn't feel pressure. But a guy like Josh, when he's under pressure, that's when the crazy shit starts happening. If you want to stop the crazy shit from happening, you got to make the man feel secure. And to be honest, the Bills really have never done that.
No.
It's the biggest flaw with the way they've built this team.
Yeah, it is.
Regardless of even if they went all the way and built the bowl and won the bowl this year, you have got to heavily address the O-line regardless. It would not matter. It would have been like if the Bengals won the bowl against the Rams. It does not change the fact that they would still have completely to address the O-line.
Yeah.
Same concept. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I am very interested to see what happens with Buffalo this year because everyone talked about how last year was their year, and I think they put a lot of unnecessary pressure on them. But honestly, it's just like, if they don't at least make the bowl this year, I feel like there's going to be a lot of tough conversations on the offensive side of the ball because I don't think it's the defense.
I think it would start being trading certain stars for capital to get the O-line because, again, I'm going to be on this train and again, especially if this is the recipe where they fall off in the offs because the O-line plays bad. And the rare situation is you can have some of the best receivers in the world. It does not matter if you're not able to block long enough to get to the ball to them. It does not. That's why Patriots and Saints are all examples always used with Drew and Tom, where they always had elite O-line units around them.
Yeah.
It gives you the benefit of the doubt where you don't always have to have all pro receivers, Pro Bowl receivers.
Yeah.
But that is the one caveat is you have to have 5 studs on the O-line. And there cannot be a weak point. A lot of these teams haven't figured it out yet. They build a few guys they think are like good, and then they just let the rest be like rotational pieces. That is not a winning recipe. Teams have got to get more rigid on the and the Niners have been a lot of you have got to have
elite
guys.
teams have best guys on both sides of the
You're
trenches.
really favoring the line. You have got to favor your trenches, right?
Yep.
It's become very like teams are only focusing on the D line and they're like forgetting. I'm like, bro, you got to have 5 studs in that O-line too. We'll stand on it forever.
But that's pretty much all I had on the Bills. Like it's just like I feel like it's always the same old story with them.
No, that was kind of like the theme today. Bills and Ravens we touched on. It's like
same old story,
same old, and the front office is just insanity because the definition of insanity is doing the same shit and expecting different results. Maybe the Ravens and the Bills are insane.
Yep, probably
just
actually.
Pure journalism.
All right, well that's it. Thank you guys for listening. This was a little bit of a different episode we tried out today, but hope you guys enjoyed it. I mean, we might go back to the recap version next week. We don't know. We're just trying some new things out. So yeah, let us know.
Yeah, we appreciate you guys sticking around. If you enjoyed and you're not already, drop a like, drop a sub. We appreciate you. Want to see you back again. Thanks so much for sticking around.